This is the best YuGiOh collaboration that has ever been made. Joey Wheeler shoes in real life. Tokyo was scattered with these. Joey was from Brooklyn, man. Attention to detail is insane. 2 different promo cards to go with the 2 different releases. It was exactly what everybody wanted. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Shadow Realm, where today we're going to be covering everything you need to know about the recent YuGiOh x Nike Air Max 95 collaboration. So yes, guys, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be covering what I think personally is probably the greatest YuGiOh collaboration of all time. And now I say that for a couple of reasons. We'll get into it later in the video, but for those of you who don't know what this is, Konami, YuGiOh, and Nike Dot Swoosh, so Dot Swoosh being Nike's kind of esports, gaming, and kind of internet culture branch, they have teamed up to bring us Joey Wheeler's shoes. That's right, Joey's shoes, or Jonochi for the OCG people out there. But we have Joey Wheeler shoes brought to us in real life in 2025. Now, in an ideal world, I will have the shoes right here to be able to show you, but unfortunately, these shoes did not release in Australia. So there were 2 releases of the shoes in 2 main colorways, one in Japan and one global release, pretty much meaning North America only. And yeah, despite my best efforts via proxies, VPNs, things like that, I was not able to secure a pair at retail. But even though we don't have these shoes in hand today, we can still talk about the details. So here is everything you need to know about the 2025 YuGiOh x Nike Air Max 95 collection. So let's get right into it and discuss why I think this is one of the best YuGiOh collaborations of all time. So why Joey and why Nike specifically? Why not do a collaboration based on Yugi or Kaiba, 2 of the most popular characters in the whole anime? Why pick Joey? Well, if you didn't know, Joey's shoes in the actual manga are based off a real life pair of Nike sneakers. That pair being the Air Max 95, or the Air Muscle as Kazuki Takahashi called them in the original 1996 YuGiOh manga. So yes, we have OG lore all the way back from 1996 from Kazuki Takahashi himself surrounding Joey's choice of footwear, and now we have it here IRL in real life. Now, as a former sneakerhead myself, this collab just hits on so many different levels for me personally. I got out of the sneaker game probably about 10 years ago, but as you can see in the back, I still have a couple pairs left from my time as an actual big sneaker collector. And I just love stuff like this. I love stuff that has a story behind it. I love stuff that has history behind it, has some real lore behind it. This is the kind of stuff that gets me really, really excited. So kind of the same reasons why I really love that Exodia re-release they did in the Quarter Century Premium Pack. Check out their video if you haven't yet. But this release has some real lore and history from the YuGiOh world and also the sneaker world. And in terms of a sneaker collaboration for YuGiOh, this is not the first sneaker collaboration YuGiOh has done. There has been ones in the past, namely the Adidas sneaker collab. For the reasons I already mentioned, this one just makes so much more sense because it has real underpinnings from the actual manga and anime. The Adidas release was honestly just like a random skate shoe that had a YuGiOh colorway applied to it. Although the Adidas release did absolutely knock it out of the park with the promo card, this one, we will talk more about it a bit later. So with that being said, in this next portion of the video, I want to go over the origins of the shoes in the original manga chapter. So for those of you not interested, you can skip ahead and go to the section where we actually look at the shoes themselves. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and let's go over the story of how Joey got his original Air Max 95s. Alright, so let's recap the story and unpack some of the lore behind Joey's shoes from the original manga right here. So the original shoes make their appearance in Volume 2, Duel 8, or Chapter 8, titled The Poison Man. Now the chapter starts out with Joey taking his friends Yugi and Tristan around some dodgy alleyways to find a particular sneaker store that has a rare pair of sneakers that he's hunting for. So just straight off the bat, we get the lore, we get the history that Joey is a straight up sneakerhead, man. He's taking his friends through shady back alleys to find a sneaker store to hunt for a particular pair of sneakers back then in 1996. And also, this is probably just a huge coincidence. I don't think this was like planned at all, but Joey's voice actor, the original voice actor from the English anime, his accent was a hardcore New York accent. Joey was from Brooklyn, man. One of the birthplaces of OG sneaker culture. Joey was 100% certified a huge sneakerhead. It just fits so perfect. Alright, so back to the story. They find this shady sneaker store, and inside, Joey finds the shoe that he has been hunting for, the Air Muscle. The all-elusive Air Muscle, and of course, looking at the original illustration here, the Air Muscle is very, very reminiscent of the Air Max 95. So if you go back and look at when the manga was actually first published, the manga was first published in 1996. First published in Japan in 1996 Tokyo. So first published in 1996, Takahashi probably would have written this story in 1995 when the Air Max 95 first debuted. So back then, the Air Max 95 would have been the pinnacle of running shoe technology, and it was worth for him to make a chapter about it and build in this lore behind Joey's sneakers. So they find the Air Muscle. The shady owner even tells him that they are not for sale. The owner even tries to flex what he's got on his feet. Looks like he's got some Dunks on. He says that in America, someone even got murdered over the pair that he's wearing. I mean, pretty dark stuff. In 96, I think it was pretty well documented already that people were getting held up and getting robbed for their sneakers. So after testing Joey a bit to see if he's really about that sneaker life, he tells him the price of these sneakers, the Air Muscle, is 100,000 yen. That's 1,000 AUD in today's dollars. Now in 1996 dollars, that is a lot of money. Now this shady owner eventually agrees to sell him the shoes for half price, for like $500, but warns him of a street gang called the Muscle Hunters who have been robbing kids for their shoes. Anyway, Joey happily forks out the $500 for the high-tech Air Muscles. Joey, YuGiOh, and Tristan leave the store and they don't even get 2 blocks away until they are jumped by the Muscle Gang and Joey gets his sneakers jacked. Again, truly reminiscent of the sneaker stories and sneaker culture at the time. People would get jumped for their sneakers. The 3 friends eventually track down the Muscle Gang to a nearby arcade, and after confronting them, they find out that the Muscle Gang don't even have these shoes anymore. They find out that the Muscle Gang was actually hired by the sneaker store owner to steal the shoes back. I know what you're thinking. Insane twist. So after finding out about this injustice, the Pharaoh emerges and Yami YuGiOh is awoken. YuGiOh goes back to the sneaker store to confront the owner and get his best friend's sneakers back. He challenges the store owner to a game to win these shoes back. It wasn't a Duel Monsters duel or a shadow game that he challenged the store owner to. It was a high-risk duel involving a scorpion, hence the name of the chapter, The Poison Man. But long story short, of course, YuGiOh wins back the sneakers for Joey, for which his friend is really grateful and really surprised how wimpy little YuGiOh got the sneakers back. So there you have it. There is the original story of how Joey got his Air Muscles or the Air Max 95. Now the whole story is super reminiscent of like early sneaker culture, sneaker hunting. And honestly, it's pretty cool that Takahashi was like aware of sneaker culture back then, that he decided to write a whole chapter around it. Maybe he was a sneakerhead in real life, or maybe the kind of cultural moment was such a big thing in Japan that you couldn't really ignore it, because just like New York, sneaker culture in Japan and like in Tokyo was a huge thing as well in those early to mid 90s. Well then again, maybe the man is just a huge collector, because if you've seen that video of his little house tour, he was a big collector of like rare things. He had a lot of rare like Hollywood props. So the guy was not a stranger to collectibles and collecting things. But now let's talk about the actual Air Max 95 sneaker itself. So since debuting in 1995, the Air Max 95 has persevered throughout history and carved out a pretty important little spot in streetwear, sneaker, and hip hop culture. Now that's not to say the Air Max 95 is the most popular shoe. I mean, even amongst the actual Air Max lineup, people would probably still pick like an Air Max 1 or an Air Max 90 before they pick a 95, probably even a 97 before they pick a 95. But definitely amongst certain groups in hip hop and certain groups around the world, the 95 remains a super popular shoe. Now if you do the maths, Air Max 95 2025, we are actually smack bang in the middle of the 30th anniversary of the Air Max 95. And every 5 years, very similar to YuGiOh, how we've just had the quarter century celebration for YuGiOh, every 5 years the Air Max 95 gets its little time in the sun again. And so in the last 6 to 12 months, we've gotten a lot of re-releases of the OG colorways of the Air Max 95. And so this collab with Konami and YuGiOh, building upon that, it's just the perfect time to release this collaboration. Just so cool. All right, so next up, let's get into the actual release of these shoes. So the collaboration was initially teased in early to mid 2025. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there were 2 releases of the shoes, a Japan exclusive release and a global, aka North American release. Both releases were done via the Nike sneakers app in early September. The retail prices I think were 210 US for the global pair, and I think 27,000 yen for the Japanese pair. Now the build up for the Japanese release in Tokyo was actually pretty awesome. Online you could see that Tokyo was scattered with these kind of Nike / Joey posters all over the place. So there was a lot of different designs, but there was posters of the Air Muscle itself, little scenes from the actual anime, and they were interactive like AR posters. So if you scanned the posters with like the Nike app, I think, There would be like an animation revealing more details about the shoe, more teasers, just more stuff to get you hyped. So there was like showing you the exclusive promo card that you get with the shoe, just super cool stuff. You can actually buy some of these posters on the aftermarket. They're going for like 100, 150 bucks as well. I honestly think it's super cool. I might end up picking up one of those posters to put in the back here somewhere. Over 2 different colorways, that also means 2 different boxes. So let's take a look at the boxes first. So this is the retail packaging for the English/global release, the North American release of these shoes. So first things first, it is a green box. So some people have said this is sort of reminiscent of the starter deck Joey box, the original starter deck Joey, the packaging, because if you remember, that was a green box as well. I can sort of see it. I'm not sure if that was what they were actually going for or if it's just a coincidence, because Joey's colors is actually green. His like jacket that he wears is green. So maybe that's why they went with it. But if it is an homage to the original starter deck Joey box, that is super cool. Now the Japanese release of the box here is like a darker green. It's still green, but it's a darker green. And maybe this is an homage to the structure deck Joey, the OCG structure deck Joey that released back in like the early 2000s. But this is not as dark a green, so I'm not sure if that kind of argument or that correlation kind of holds up for the Japanese pair. But it is the same box, just a kind of darker green with the Japanese logo on there. So taking a look at the box here, on the top of the box here, we have the big air muscle kind of artwork. And in the front there is an exclusive promo card. So there were 2 different promo cards to go with the 2 different releases. The English version got a spell card and the Japanese version got a trap card. Now I'm going to discuss the promo cards later in this video, but there it is. The promo card is on the very top of the box and it looks like it's in sort of a quasi top loader situation, and it's in a sleeve as well. So in terms of packaging for a promo card, this is done really well in a way where the card won't really get damaged. Now juxtaposing that with the Adidas YuGiOh release, the way they packaged that card just in one of those regular Konami promo card sleeves and wedged under some cardboard in the actual shoe box, and because of that a bunch of the cards got damaged, got indented from the actual box itself. So doing it this way, big thumbs up from Nike, big win, because this looks like the cards will not get damaged. But looking at the rest of the box here, we have an artwork of Joey with his back to us in his signature green jacket. He of course is wearing the air muscles down the bottom, holding a card, and next to him, wrapping around the side of the box to the bottom, is one of Joey's signature monsters, the Red Eyes Black Dragon, of course. And then now opening the box, we see that behind that top cover, it's actually designed to be able to rip. So you're supposed to rip that section off to peel off that artwork part. And I think that's how you get the promo card out. You need to tear the top of the box off. So that is a pretty cool detail there. Now the Japanese release of the box, pretty much the same thing going on. I mean, kind of interesting how the English/North American release still has the Japanese YuGiOh logo on the inside of the box. So both of the boxes, Japanese and English, have the Japanese YuGiOh logo, and interestingly enough, the Japanese box has the colored logo, whereas the English box has the black and white logo. The tissue paper for the actual shoes, super interesting. I think it is the attribute symbols on the tissue paper. It's a pretty cool tissue paper. I think that's the dark symbol right there on the Japanese box that we can see. So the dark attribute symbol probably for the Red Eyes Black Dragon, which is a dark monster. So really cool little detail on the tissue paper there. On that note though, before we get into the actual sneakers here, that is one of the things I want to highlight with this actual release is attention to detail. There is so many little details about this release that are just so cool, and one of the things that I think they've done really well. All right, so finally, let's take a look at the actual shoes themselves. So like you've already seen, 2 releases means 2 different colorways. So the global/North American release got this kind of blue colorway of the Air Muscles, the Air Max 95s here. And this is supposed to be reminiscent of the actual anime coloring. And then the Japanese release is this black and white kind of monochrome pair, supposed to represent the manga, the black and white manga that we just looked at. That is the Japanese release of the shoe. Really cool in my opinion. But while we're here, let's talk about the colorways, specifically the global/North American colorway. So this blue pair that we have here, I think they've done a really good job with the blue colorway. And based on the Nike kind of release materials, this frame here from the original anime, it looks like this is what they based the design and colorway on. This frame here where everything is blue. But if we're being real here, the reason these shoes are blue in this still frame is not because that they were meant to be blue. It's kind of because of a colorization, stylization option because the whole tone of the scene here is blue. But if we are being honest with ourselves here, this is not the colorway that Joey was wearing. If we are being completely honest, based on the colorizations of the original manga kind of covers here, Joey is wearing the neon OG colorway of the Air Max 95. The first colorway that the Air Max 95 ever released in was this neon colorway here. Based on the fact that Kazuki Takahashi wrote this story when the 95, this colorway was first dropped, first released, it is pretty safe to assume that this was the colorway that he intended for Joey to be wearing. But I completely understand why Nike, the designers, went this way because the Neon 95s already re-released earlier this year. They really couldn't just re-release another pair of the Neon 95s and call it the YuGiOh collab. So I think what they did, making the kind of blue colorway to match this scene here, I think they did a pretty good job with it overall. All right, so let's take a closer look at both of the colorways here. So the blue global / North American release colorway here, we've got the kind of blue theme going across the whole shoe. We've got a leather panel for the toe box, the toe panel here, and then for the kind of gradient, the Air Max 95 gradient design, it looks like we've got some kind of mesh material. It looks like a thick kind of mesh material across the side there for the gradient. Looking at the top of the shoe here, the first thing I see obviously is the Air Muscle branding. So where we usually say Air Max, of course, now it says Air Muscle as a huge homage to the original manga story from Kazuki Takahashi himself. So Air Muscle in this kind of neon yellow. We have white laces here going through some contrasting blue colors for the lace loops amongst the tops of the shoe. Of course, as I mentioned, we have that leather toe box, and then you can actually get a little peek to the insoles of the shoe here. We have Joey on the left shoe, and then we have the Red Eyes Black Dragon on the right insole. For the Japanese pair, it is pretty simple. It is black and white, although I do love a great black and white monochromatic shoe, but of course, we still have the Air Muscle branding, but everything is black and white gray scale. Even the insoles here are gray scale, but we have a black leather toe box here with the black, white, and gray elements going all across. So white laces with the white lace loops. Based on the images here, we can actually get a closer look at the insoles. So on the left insole, we have Joey there, YuGiOh with the Nike text. On the right insole, we have the Red Eyes Black Dragon in the OG art with the YuGiOh Nike logo again. Now, towards the top of the insoles, when you put them together, it makes like a smiley face logo. I'm not sure what this is referencing. If anyone knows what the smiley face means, let me know, but I'm not sure what that smiley face references. Now, on the Japanese version of the insoles, they are the same, but they are black and white. Even the insoles are black and white, really cool. But interesting little detail, the smiley face is different. So on the global pair, it's like the big mouth smiley face, and then on the Japanese pair, it's just like the kind of subtle smile. Is this like a Japanese version of the smiley face? Again, I'm not sure what this means, but interesting little detail. Like I said, this release is all about the little details. All right, so now moving on to the lateral side of these shoes here, we're looking at the global release. So of course we have the classic gradient design of the Air Max 95 going from light blue all the way to dark blue. Towards the back heel, of course, we have the little swoosh logo. So first thing on the midsole, the first thing you are going to notice is the scuff marks on the midsole. So that kind of represents almost the same as the manga. The design in the manga had these scuff marks drawn into it. Built-in scuff marks on the shoe here on the midsole. And also from the original manga story, Joey wasn't afraid to wear his shoes. He put those things on feet straight away, and he even wore them after they had a hole stabbed in them by that shoe store owner. So Joey was not afraid to get his sneakers dirty. Of course, on the Air Max 95, we have the two Air Max units, one in the forefoot and one in the heel. So the heel air unit here we can see is yellow, and it has the black scuff marks going through there as well. Very cool. And on the front air unit here, a really cool little detail is in the original manga, the Air Muscle only had one air bubble in the forefoot air unit. Now the release version of the Air Max 95 has two bubbles in the forefoot unit. So what they did here was they color matched. They colored in that front air bubble unit to the midsole. So it looks like there is only one air bubble in the front, just like it did in the anime and the manga. So really, really cool little detail there. Attention to detail in this release is insane, guys. On the medial side of the shoe here, we have pretty much the same thing. We have these scuff marks going all the way down the midsole, the two air units here, and of course the front air unit kind of colored in on the forefoot there. Of course, we see the lovely grading design of the 95 with the leather toe cap. Now going over to the rear booty of the shoe here, we can see the Nike Swoosh Air logo right at the top there. And in the bottom Air unit here, we can see the branding 1995 Nike X YuGiOh with that kind of neon yellow Air unit. Really, really cool. Now, another interesting thing with this heel panel here is it looks like it is 3M reflective material. So a lot of 95s use this 3M reflective material. It's used on a bunch of other Nike sneakers like Jordans as well. But basically, if you take a photo of these sneakers with the flash on, this section, this panel will reflect back at you. And looking at the kind of Nike lookbook release photos, it does show it, that panel is reflective material. So that heel panel, if you take a photo with the flash on, will be reflecting back at you very nicely. Initially, that top gradient section also looked like reflective 3M material to me as well as the lace loops, but based on the lookbook photos, I don't think they are reflecting that much. Now, the Japanese pair here is pretty much the same thing, but in black and white monochromatic, so not much to say there. Now, finally, if we look at the outsole here, we have the classic Air Max 95 traction. We have the waffle traction in the forefoot, and in the back, we have the regular Air Max 95 kind of outsole. And in the middle here on the shank plate, we actually have the YuGiOh logo branding with the Nike Air on the bottom. A really, really cool little detail where usually we would have that Air Max 95 branding. We now have the YuGiOh logo. Now, for the Japanese pair, it is pretty much the same thing, but just black and white. So nothing too crazy going on, but a super cool option to have, definitely. One representing the anime, one representing the manga. And so, like I said at the beginning of the video, the global North American pair initially retailed for 210 USD, and the Japanese pair initially retailed for 27,000 yen or $270. Now, the release was done on these sneakers app via raffle, and it was quickly sold out almost immediately, with the US pair now retailing on the aftermarket for anywhere around 600 to 700 Australian dollars, and the Japanese pair retailing anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 Australian dollars. So yeah, it was pretty crazy hyped. Honestly, the price of the global / North American pair right now in the aftermarket is not too bad, but I will wait a little bit more to see if the price drops somewhat in the future. Okay, and lastly, and perhaps most importantly for YuGiOh players and collectors out there, we need to discuss the exclusive promo cards that come with the sneakers themselves. So with the global or North American release of the shoe, you will receive the Winds of Victory spell card. Now, the Winds of Victory has got to be a reference or an homage to the Nike brand itself. Nike being the winged goddess of victory in Greek mythology. So the Winds of Victory has got to be a reference to that. The rarity here is prismatic secret rare, with the artwork being the Air Muscle promo artwork that we've seen in a lot of the promotional materials. But really cool there. Card code is NKC1 EN001. The card text here, the card effect, is actually an equipped continuous spell. So the equipped monster gains 300 attack. Also, it becomes wind type. So why is this important? These cards are actually official YuGiOh cards. You can use these in official tournaments. I don't know why you would, because the effects are honestly pretty trash, but hey, you can actually use these in an official duel. And the final little detail here, the coolest detail in my opinion, is the little embossing of the Nike swoosh in the text box area. So we've seen this of course before with the quarter century cards, the 20th century cards, the embossing of the quarter century logo. And of course we've seen it in the Adidas collaboration where they've embossed the Adidas trifoil logo in that text box area. So just super cool to have a Nike collaboration card, in my opinion. Prismatic secret rare. And now moving on to the promo card that gets included with the Japanese exclusive pair. This is a trap card called Trap of the Poisonous Scorpion. So of course this is a reference to the original manga story we went over, where the original shoe store owner used a scorpion to test Joey and Yugi. So a direct reference to the original manga chapter. A regular trap card, prismatic secret rare foiling again, with the artwork being, I think it's almost a direct lift from the manga where the knife is stabbing through this shoe with the scorpion tail showing out there. Really, really cool. The card text here being, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy it and then inflict 300 damage to your opponent. So not that bad. Honestly, I think it's way more useful than the spell card. The card code for this one being NKC1JP001. And of course it has the same detail in the text box, the Nike swoosh embossed logo. Really, really cool in my opinion. But now of course we cannot end this video without talking about the Red Eyes Black Dragon promo card. So initially when the collab was teased, the promo cards that we saw were those two right there, the spell card and the trap card. Those were the two promo cards that were teased to be coming included with the sneakers. We saw this at, I think, Comic-Con they teased them, and then in the little teaser videos that they did, the spell and the trap card. And of course the first thing people were complaining about was, Why is the card not the Red Eyes Black Dragon? Because if you remember back to the Adidas sneaker collab, the promo card that we got with that was the Dark Magician in Prismatic Secret Rare. So the exact same rarity, but just a way better card in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh collectability. So initially the vibe from the Yu-Gi-Oh community, from what I saw, was a lot of people didn't care much for the collaboration for the shoe because the promo card was not a Red Eyes Black Dragon. That is until one day. Remember when I told you the build up to the Tokyo release of the shoe had those AR kind of posters that you could scan and an animation played. Someone scans one of those posters, and when they did, the animation revealed a second promo card, which was the Red Eyes Black Dragon promo card, the one that everyone was clamoring for, the one that everyone wanted. The only problem at the time was no one knew how this promo card was getting released, how it was being distributed. There was a lot of speculation online. People wanted answers, and then the 2025 Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships happened in Paris. And in Paris was the first time we saw the Nike / Yu-Gi-Oh! Red Eyes Black Dragon card release. And so this is where we got our initial first real good look at the card from the World Championships. It was exactly what everybody wanted. It was a Prismatic Secret Rare, a Red Eyes Black Dragon in the OG art with the Nike swoosh logo embossed in the text box. It looks like some copies of the Nike Red Eyes Black Dragon were released to some content creators and some players. So immediately after the World Championships, with no knowledge of how many copies were actually out there, a lot of copies started popping up on eBay and being sold there, with one copy being sold for as high as I think 1,700 USD. So the initial price of these things was absolutely crazy. Now fast forward just 1 week to early September, Nike Japan was holding the House of Duel Yu-Gi-Oh! Pop-up activation in Shibuya, Tokyo. It was held across 3 days and attendance was by invitation only via lottery raffle system. So in typical Japan fashion, you had to sign up, win a raffle to then be able to go to the House of Duel pop-up activation. Now inside the pop-up were some super cool Yu-Gi-Oh! Themed kind of activations and events. There was Yu-Gi-Oh! arcade machines, Yu-Gi-Oh! claw machines where the prize was a pair of the Japanese sneakers. They had these vending machines selling Yu-Gi-Oh! House of Duel water bottles, a giant kind of art piece of the Japanese sneaker with the scorpion and the Red Eyes Black Dragon. They showed absolutely so many pairs of the Japanese air muscles here. And actually, if we pause the video quickly, there's actually some global / North American pairs here. So I'm not sure if those were sold there as well. But if we pause this video at some key moments, you will notice that it looks like hundreds, maybe thousands of copies of the Nike Red Eyes Black Dragon were being given away at this activation. Now the book here, the magazine that is attached to that you're looking at, it is the Weekly Shonen Jump 2025 issue number 39, which features the air muscle on the back page. I actually ordered a couple copies of this Weekly Shonen Jump before I knew this was even a thing. They were available for sale like 2 weeks before the actual shoes released. But at the House of Duel activation here, it looks like they were giving a copy of the Nike Red Eyes Black Dragon with every copy of the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. So in addition to these hundreds or maybe thousands of copies of the card that are out there now, I do know there were some copies given out or seeded to some family and friends pairs of these shoes to some people in Japan. So recapping the promo cards, I'm not really sure why they did it like this. Judging by the retail packaging, the fact that there's a Red Eyes on the box, the fact that there's a Red Eyes on one of the insoles, it looks for me, for all intents and purposes, that the Red Eyes Black Dragon was really supposed to be the main promo card included in the shoe. But for some reason, that idea got scrapped. Instead, we got the spell and the trap card instead, and the Red Eyes was distributed in this really weird and wonky way that regular collectors were not going to be able to obtain. Either you had to be in Paris for the World Championships or you had to be in Tokyo for that pop-up. Of course, I would love to pick one up to go with my Adidas, the Dark Magician promo card here. It will be a great pairing. Now, all we need is like the Jumpman Blue Eyes White Dragon or like the New Balance Blue Eyes White Dragon. Make it happen, Konami. We need the trio. Now, besides the shoes, there was also an apparel collection released alongside them. So first up, we had the Nike X Yu-Gi-Oh! Destroyer jacket. So this is a badass bomber jacket, kind of in the blue color style to go in the Domino High School kind of theme. So it has big DH there. Awesome jacket. And then along with the jacket were 3 t-shirts, all the same design but black, white, and gray. So it had the Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh! Logo with the Nike swoosh on the front, and on the back, the Red Eyes Black Dragon with the red swoosh on the back. So super cool t-shirt. I was definitely trying to buy this as well, but of course I did miss out too. That would be great to go on my little t-shirt rack right there. So as of right now, everything is sold out, but there has been a little rumor of a restock coming in December this year. I think people were saying it was a restock of the apparel collection only, not the actual sneakers. So if you're on the lookout for some of those t-shirts, maybe hold out until the end of this year, because I know some of those are going for double, triple the price on the aftermarket right now as well. And now another random random tidbit of information is that these sneakers have actually made their way onto Fortnite. It is an unlockable item in Fortnite. You can unlock Joey's or Jonochi's sneakers in the actual game to use on your character. So Nike Swoosh is serious about this. They're actually doing some marketing and pushing the sneakers really hard, even though everything is sold out right now. But with that all being said, let me give you my final thoughts on this collaboration. Personally, for me, I honestly think this is the best YuGiOh collaboration that has ever been made, hands down. The sneaker collector in me, the YuGiOh collector in me, this thing just hits on so many levels. Joey's original shoe, the Air Max 95, the history, the lore with Kazuki Takahashi, writing the original manga chapter, the shoe in the anime colorway, the shoe in the manga colorway, Joey's English voice actor, Brooklyn accent, New York, everything just fits so perfectly. It was like it was meant to be. I was down for the shoes for the collab even without any promo cards. The shoe itself to me was the cool part of the whole thing. Honestly, I put it right up there. I almost put it above the Kyber case. The Kyber briefcase, Joey's Air Max 95 honestly would sit on top of the Kyber briefcase to me if I was going to rank them in terms of like YuGiOh products, merch that have been made. Like I said, official Nike YuGiOh collaboration, how can you beat it? Big thumbs up from me, A triple plus from me in terms of the actual idea, the collaboration, the product, the timing, the design, huge win. However, when it comes to the actual release of these sneakers themselves, the promo cards, the weird decisions with the Red Eyes Black Dragon, I feel like that could have been handled way better instead of predictably letting the products just get scalped to the moon. But hey, what can you do? But yeah, I think that was everything you need to know about the 2025 Nike YuGiOh Air Max 95 collaboration. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. Like I said, there were so many little details with this release. I'm sure I missed something. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully one day I can pick up a pair of the sneakers and have them displayed somewhere back there on top of the Kyber briefcase maybe. But that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next one.